One of the early arcade classics of the early 1980s, Pac-Man is practically an institution in classic arcade gaming and is a popular franchise in its own right. We've all played it, we all know about it, and so there's no real reason to go into the history of the whole deal. Most Atari gamers are also aware of the poor translation of Pac-Man that their beloved Atari 2600 video computer system received, and make no mistake, this was a poor port by every extent of the word. It's not downright terrible, but it's still not very good. Now eventually Atari learned their lesson and gave Atari 2600 owners a better port of Miss Pac-Man, and then later conceived a home conversion of Junior Pac-Man, the game that Namco wants you to forget exists since it hasn't seen the light of day in ages. Now, of course, by the time the game rolled around in 1987, Nintendo had come along and dominated the video game market with their Americanized family computer turned entertainment system. As a result, it was entirely possible that most folks missed out on playing either this Atari 2600 conversion or the original arcade game it was based on. A sad, unfortunate set of circumstances because Junior Pac-Man is actually a worthwhile addition to the Pac family, even with its rather dubious origins. Junior Pac-Man follows the same formula as its predecessors. As the junior of the Pac family, you have to clear the maze of dots while avoiding the ghosts that will pursue you to no ends. You can still collect power pellets to turn ghost blues and gobble them up for bonus points, and you can still collect the bouncing toys that appear on occasion. It's pretty standard fare except for the fact that the maze is taller in height, there's no wraparound routes for quick escapes, and the bouncing toys will actually make any dots that come across fat, causing Junior to slow down somewhat when he eats them. There are a couple minor changes, but they really change up the gameplay for the most part, especially when compared to Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man. One thing that is immediately notable about Junior Pac-Man is that Junior plays a little faster than previous Pac outings, and that may add to the overall challenge a bit. Fortunately, if you if you find a game a bit too overwhelming, you can alter the number of ghosts that appear if you so desire, and you can also select a maze to play in. There are 7 mazes in all, and you don't repeat any of them until you've played through all of them, unlike in Miss Pac-Man, which had 4 mazes but required to play one maze a few times before moving on to the next, or the original Pac-Man, which obviously had one single solitary maze. Regardless, this is still a pretty tough game, and chances are it'll take you a few tries to clear a maze and truly master it. Chances are the difficulty and speed of the game can be a bit overwhelming to the point of frustration. Still, if you persevere and keep at it, you'll eventually emerge the victor. This holds true for many games, but perhaps more so here. As far as the graphics of Junior Pac-Man goes, this is typical 2600 quality. Generally blocky maze background and very crude sprites. However, as crude as the sprites may be, they at least resemble Junior Pac-Man with spinning propeller hat. That's a rather nice touch. And the ghost, and the toys aren't too shabby either. Not to mention that the background of the maze is black and not blue like in the previous Pac releases on the VCS. So there is that attempt to make the game closely resemble that of the arcade game, even with the block pellets and walls. Just about the only major deviation is that the mazes are taller in the 2600 version, whereas in the arcade mazes they're wider. But still, the concept is the same, and I assume the layouts are at least similar to the arcade original, if nothing else. Honestly, I've never played the arcade version, so folks who might have played it might know better than I would if the mazes match up, but whatever. The sound in Junior Pac-Man is also fairly decent, along with a nice little startup jingle that is pleasing to the ears. Honestly, I have little to say in this regard. At best, it at least sounds like a Pac-Man game, or at least comparable to the sounds of Miss Pac-Man on the 2600, and even at worst, it still sounds better than the puke-colored, ear-raping sounding VCS conversion of the original Pac-Man. Overall, Junior Pac-Man's a fun little game and a top-notch conversion of an arcade game that you'll most likely never see a re-release of ever again due to its dubious status as an unauthorized Pac-Man release, not to mention the fact that Namco has pretty much buried this game in the proverbial video game graveyard of forgotten memories. For an Atari 2600 video game thing, it's actually pretty impressive what they were able to pull off here, and on top of that, it's plenty fun to play even if it is a little difficult. Junior Pac-Man is most definitely one of those hidden gems within the 2600 library, and is a must-play for fans of the Pac family of video game classics.